A man walks into a co-op store. He's looking for a coat to buy for the winter. The store clerk says he thinks he has just the right coat for him. One that's warm when it's 30 below zero, but lightweight and comfortable to wear. The coat is waterproof and durable. It can last a lifetime, and it's the most inexpensive coat in the store. It sounds perfect, but then the clerk pulls out the coat and it's hot pink with purple polka dots on it. Would the man buy the coat? There's no rational reason for him not to do so. It serves every utility you could ask for at the best price possible. No, he wouldn't buy the coat. The simple fact is the vast majority of heterosexual men don't want to walk around wearing a hot pink coat with purple polka dots on it. And you can't change that. Even if there's a blue coat at the store that's less warm, less durable, and more expensive, he's much more likely to buy that coat. This video is about a losing strategy I see plenty of conservatives fall for. I wasn't planning on making this video because I've talked about it a bit in the past, but what prompted me to make this video was an argument I got into on a recent live stream which I wasn't able to resolve. Now, I'm not interested in infighting with people on the right, and I don't do internet drama. But I must reply to the arguments made because it's a mistake I see people on the right falling for time and time again, and until we understand this mistake, we'll continue to spin our wheels in the same trap we've been in for decades. The initial disagreement was on whether or not Republicans can ever win the black vote in the United States. As you probably know, black Americans overwhelmingly vote Democrat and have for decades. And this is something that plenty of other people have covered before, so I don't want to make this the entire focus of this video. So for that, I'll direct you to this video by James Allsup and the research by Ryan Faulk into the data in relation to things like welfare and taxation as it affects African Americans. I'll also direct you to this video by John Mark on what the left offers black Americans other than just economic benefits. I want to focus this video on the branding of the left and the right and looking at what each side is selling and come to an understanding of why certain people vote left and why certain people vote right. Because the left and the right are not just policies. The left and the right are political brands. In marketing, very little attention is placed on the utility of a product, because you aren't just selling someone a product, you're selling them a brand. People don't entirely make rational decisions based on the utility of the product that they're buying. They make decisions based on the perception of the product that the brand places in their minds, even if the perception that they have is largely untrue. For instance, let's look at the company Gillette. They have two different brands, Fusion and Venus. Both are razors sold by Gillette, but they have different brands. One is directed towards men and one is directed towards women. And Gillette sells these razors not on their utility, but on the image that they place in their customers' minds. No one remembers the jargon in their commercials about the number of blades that their razors have. For Fusion, they remember the square-jawed, shirtless man with a six-pack and a towel staring at himself in the mirror. For Venus, they remember the woman lying on the beach in a swimsuit with the wind in her hair and waves crashing against the shore. Because that's the brand that they're selling, and it's for a product that they're just going to be using in their bathroom and no one else will ever know about. Just like how Fusion and Venus are brands, the left and the right are not only policies, but they are political brands. The left is selling a brand and the right is selling a brand, just like how Fusion appeals to men and Venus appeals to women. The left appeals to a certain customer and the right appeals to a certain customer. To understand why the left is able to create the political coalition that they do, where they get feminists, Muslims, LGBT people, and black people all to vote for them, we need to understand what the left's brand is. So what are the brands of the left and the right? Our brand, the brand of the right, the thing that conservatives are trying to conserve, is Christian European civilization. And this is all-encompassing. It includes its morality, its economic system, its authority structure, and yes, whether we admit it or not, the right is inherently linked to people of European descent. This is what the right represents. Because this is what comes to people's minds when they think of right-wing politics. The right's brand is saying that Christian European civilization and its traditions are a good thing and should be preserved into the future. The brand of the left is saying that Christian European civilization, its economic systems, its morality, and its authority structure have historically been an oppressive thing, and that social progress is made when we discard these traditions. This is the brand of the left. This is what left-wing politics is inherently linked to, because this is what comes to people's minds when they think of left-wing politics, whether consciously or subconsciously. And just like how Venus is a target customer base and Fusion has a target customer base, both the left and the right have target customer bases. There are people that these respective brands will appeal to, and there are people that they will not appeal to, and this supersedes functionality in many cases. The brand of the right, that being that European civilization is a good thing, will predominantly appeal to those of European descent. That goes without saying. Those who are descended from Western civilization are the ones who will identify with it the most. People are conservative with their own culture. This is the primary customer base that right-wing politics is selling to, whether we admit it or not. For example, if we're selling the brand of the right, who are some potential customers? A young white man who's had enough of the ideology taught at his university, or a young white woman who's dissatisfied with the feminist lifestyle, that's an easy sell for us. We're selling them an identity that they can be proud of. Are there any other groups that might buy this brand? Well, Asians, for example, maybe are a potential customer. It's a more difficult sell since they aren't necessarily sentimental about European civilization, but they generally do well in Western countries, so they have an incentive to join the right. Most Asians currently vote Democrat in the US, but this could potentially change. Some portions of the Hispanic population might buy the right's brand because Hispanics aren't really a unified group. The majority of them vote left, and that's not going to change, but Cubans, for instance, vote right. Maybe a few of them will go to the right, but not many will. Now we have to look at who votes hard left. The black population, Muslims, feminists, LGBT people, and the majority of Hispanics. Why do these groups buy the brand of the left and reject the brand of the right? Some conservatives have pointed out that it doesn't make sense that these groups who appear ideologically opposed to each other vote for the same people. They might say that a lot of Hispanics are culturally conservative or that blacks might be opposed to the promotion of homosexuality and that we can win them over that way. But this will not happen. This point of view fails to understand what the left is selling people who vote for them. First of all, the research by Ryan Faulk shows the economic benefits that the left provides each of these demographics, but it goes beyond that. It's about the brand that the left sells. The left is not selling Muslims feminism, and they're not selling African Americans transgenderism. What they're selling each of these groups is victimhood. What is a short-haired cat lady saying to the people that vote for the left? She's saying that they're victims who are held back by European civilization. She is saying to blacks that they're the victims of racism. She's saying to women that they're the victims of sexism. She's saying to LGBT people that they're the victims of homophobia. She's saying to Muslims that they're the victims of Islamophobia. That is the brand of the left, and that is what everyone in their political coalition is buying. Anyone who benefits from the liquidation and selling off of our civilization, which often manifests itself in generous welfare payouts, and they know who this narrative appeals to and who it does not appeal to. They know their customer base and they market to them. Leftists aren't out there saying to white men why they should vote for them. They're just saying, you're horrible and we're going to take your wealth. On the right, we need to learn to do the same. We need to understand our brand and who it appeals to and who it does not appeal to. In the case of the black community in the US, not only do they support the policies of the Democratic Party, the Democrats are selling them a brand that is appealing to them. Because America still is a white normative nation. American patriotism is not going to resonate with them because, and I know this is going to sound like a shit-lib talking point, but they've experienced American history very differently. The brand of the left is that the United States at its foundation was an oppressive society and still to this day is an unfair one. And this appeals to a group that still underperforms the white majority. And the very foundation myth of white guilt in the United States is slavery. Not only are the left's policies such as welfare and affirmative action appealing to black Americans, but the brand of the left is appealing to them. It answers the narratives that they've been raised with. It not only allows them to get positions in universities, but to stand on the stage in one of those universities in front of a predominantly white audience and say, "You're horrible, everything you own is illegitimate, and you owe me." And there's nothing that the white people in the audience can say back. That's the power that the left offers them. And I know that most victim narratives on the left about women or people of color being oppressed for centuries are based on only partial truths or just outright lies, but it doesn't matter. This is the image they have ingrained in their minds of European civilization, and you're not going to change that. You have to look at it from their perspective. You can't look at it from ours. For example, most black conservatives who support the policies of the Republican Party still vote Democrat because they're voting out of ethnic loyalty and they don't want to vote for a party that they associate with white America. Now, there's some legitimacy to the argument that conservatives make that left-wing policies haven't helped the black community, but these are completely moot because they'll never buy the brand of politics that the right is selling. Black Americans don't believe a word that white Republicans say. It's like trying to sell a man a Venus razor. No matter how you present him the utility of a Venus razor, the vast majority of heterosexual men are not going to buy a brand that they associate with femininity. Think of it like this. Imagine a chubby, blue-haired feminist going up to a white, conservative Christian man from Texas and telling him about the benefits of intersectionality and why he should join the left. Now let's assume that the left actually offered him policies that would benefit him. I know this is highly unlikely, but for a hypothetical, let's just say that the Democratic platform would cause his salary to rise and his rent prices to fall. Would he listen to what this blue-haired had to say? No, because even if everything she was saying was true, no self-respecting conservative man would want to associate with that brand of politics. That's how these Turning Point USA campaigns with Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens come across to the vast majority of black Americans. It's like trying to sell a Venus razor to men by making a commercial with a man lying on the beach shaving while the song Venus by Bananarama plays.
And beyond that, we spoke about the black community and black issues and the things that I think that we can be doing to help. You know, rather than kneeling at the national anthem and insulting our veterans, our troops, and their families, I had a conversation with our president about what we could actually accomplish to make things better in America for black people beyond what he's already doing.
This is why Republicans will never win a significant portion of the black vote in the United States. You're selling them a brand of politics that simply does not appeal to them. No matter how much you bang your fists on the table and insist that you have what they want, at the end of the day, you're trying to sell a man a woman's razor. It's a pipe dream. It's never gonna happen. And yes, I know that people like Thomas Sowell exist, but they're a rare exception. And for anyone calling me a defeatist, if you try the same thing 10 times and it doesn't work, I think it's time you try something different. That's not defeatism, that's reality. Saying that this group is naturally conservative, which might be true for some Hispanics, but that isn't even true for blacks. They have extremely high rates of illegitimacy, abortion, and divorce. Simply not liking transgenderism doesn't make you conservative. But this argument misses the point. It fails to account for the economic benefits the left provides them, and it fails to understand what the left is selling them. Power through victimhood. In the UK, over 85% of the extremely socially conservative Muslim population voted for the Labour Party, full of feminists and LGBT activists. The left isn't selling Muslims feminism or homosexuality. They're selling every single one of their little victim groups the ability to tear down Christian European civilization and take from it what they wish. This is how the left builds their political coalition, and the evidence for this is overwhelming. Just look at the voter demographics in the United States, or in Britain, or in Canada, or in any country that records the data. No right-wing party in the West has been able to break this trend. If you want to know why, I'll link down below the video by James Allsup on why Republicans won't get the black vote, the research by Ryan Faulk. I'll link John Mark's videos on why the left never learns. I'll link Academic Agent's video on the London mayoral elections. And I'll also link the stream that Distributist and I did on Academic Agent's channel and the stream that I did on JF's channel. This is something that we on the right need to accept and adjust our strategy accordingly. Instead of deluding ourselves that we'll sell conservatism to those who haven't bought it for the last half century, we need to acknowledge who right-wing politics appeals to and sell it to them. We are selling Western civilization. The vast majority of people that will buy this are people of European descent. Asians do well in a free market, we could potentially win them over. A minority of Hispanics, since they're a loosely defined group, might join in too. But the vast majority of LGBT people, Africans, Muslims, or other third world migrants have nothing to gain from the right and everything to gain from the left. There's a reason the left has them as solid voting blocks, and this is why left-wing politicians want unlimited third world migration into the West. Because they get the votes. It's a demographic game, and migration will make it impossible for the right to ever win elections in the future. And they know that under the current liberal democratic system, they just need to shift the demographics enough to give them a permanent victory. They're not trying to win Texas by convincing white conservatives to vote Democrat. They're just trying to outnumber them by flooding the state with migrants who will overwhelmingly vote Democrat. The answer is that we need to change the system because in the long run it will give the left a victory, and trying to convince voter blocs who have consistently voted hard left to flip has been fruitless. Some will, but the vast majority won't. It's been tried and it failed. I agree with John Mark that we need to convince people already on the right to abandon failed strategies and to embrace winning strategies. I'm not blackpilled, by the way. What would blackpill me is if we didn't learn the lessons from the last 50 years and continued to employ failed strategies. We won't be able to convince those who have the most to gain from the left to give up what would be a guaranteed victory. But I am confident that we will be able to convince those who have the most to lose from leftist rule to realize that the system is rigged against us and to push for real reform. And in that respect, I am very white-pilled. And that's not to say that people shouldn't make the most of what they can do today, but in the long term, it is something you should keep in mind. Because instead of trying to work within a system that heavily favors the left, we need to get people on the right to consider changing the system. I don't want to live under leftist rule for the rest of the time, so I want to have a real and honest discussion about alternatives to the current democratic order that we live under. Because in the long term, it's a losing game for us, so we should try to change the system. That is why the focus of my channel is neo-reaction. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, or subscribe, and follow me on Twitter. And if you'd like to support the channel, you can now do so. Links are down below. Thank you for listening. Till next time, endeavor.